Dealing with uncertainty is just a natural part of life. We do it all the time. But lately, we have been dealing with an immense amount of uncertainty layered on with fear that is just prevalent throughout society, something we've never dealt with at this level ever before. I am honored today because I have a guest who is uniquely qualified to speak to us about this pandemic that we're dealing with, looking at it from a different perspective, more from the standpoint of being able to have the right mental mindset to deal with the issues that we have at hand, help us to prepare in our homes, and just some really good practical advice, that much of which I doubt you've heard already. So I hope that you will listen to this episode, and I hope you'll stay to the end because she's giving us a couple of opportunities of things that I think can really help. So enjoy this episode. I think you're really going to find it valuable. Welcome to Longing for More, where Christians come to strengthen their faith, revive their soul, and learn to live their lives with a sense of fulfillment and peace. Listen each week to learn how to incorporate your faith into your daily activities, stop wandering through life feeling empty and unfulfilled, and begin to live your more. Let's get started. Everyone, I just am really, really blessed today. I have a dear friend of mine with me, and we've been talking about doing an interview for a while now, and I realized that there was a reason why we didn't do it before today. Everything comes together at exactly the right timing, and today is a day that I want to share with you information that we can use for all areas of life, but it's really, really important right now as we are in this time of uncertainty with the virus and all of that. And I know everybody's tired of hearing about it, but there are things that we need to hear. And so I'm just really excited to introduce to you my friend, Jeanette Carbajal. Before we get into the nitty gritty and all of that, let's just tell me a little bit about yourself. Like, what should the listeners know about you?
Yeah, so I'm a rare breed. I'm a born and raised Angelino, which means I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, and that's very rare here.
Okay, I didn't know that that was a rare thing. So
everybody in LA is a transplant from somewhere else. So
wow.
I'm like a little gem.
Yes, you are in many ways. What else?
I am engaged, and I just postponed my wedding today. So in the midst of Corona, and I'm really excited for what else bigger and greater and better is going to come out of that.
Yes. And I love that perspective because in the midst of everything that's going on, and first of all, when we talked before we started recording, you said you canceled your wedding. So we had to clarify that you didn't, you may have canceled the venue, but not the wedding.
Yeah.
So
No.
And it's just another casualty of the times that we're in. And I'm really sorry for that.
It's okay.
You know, one of the things I've said so many times in my life is, if this is the worst thing that's going to happen to me, life is good, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So tell us what you do. I mean, obviously that's the reason that we're going to have this conversation today. I think it's really important to get that out there. So let's just jump in and talk about what it is that Jeanette does that might be relevant to people today.
Yeah, so I help mostly executives and now the general population who are struggling with an impending disease diagnosis and those who are a confirmed diagnosed patient. I help them go through the mental mindset of how to prepare, get ready, address the what ifs, and help them cultivate a healing roadmap.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of a sudden and that was a big deal before. I mean, people have a lot of, there's so much that goes around getting a diagnosis and just everything that goes through your mind and your life changes and all of that. And now everybody's looking at that. I mean, we just have this fear. So how do we deal with this uncertainty and keep the right mental mindset in a time like we're going through right now?
Well, I would say number one and the biggest thing is to breathe. A lot of the times when we're watching the daily news with the new numbers of those who've contracted the disease, or from those who have passed. Like, we're holding our breath. We're holding our breath when we're picking up a phone call from a friend and family. How are you doing? And you hear a cough, we hold our breath. Like, it's about breathing first and foremost, returning it back to the present moment. And where am I? What can I do? And what is really out of my control?
Yeah. Breathing is, it's the most important thing we can remember, and why we do it just without even thinking about it until we hit that point where something is traumatizing or scary to us, and then we stop, and we just need to tell ourselves to breathe. So yeah, good advice for life all the way around the board.
Yeah. So the reason I say that first, even though it sounds so rudimentary, so coronavirus does affect the lungs first and foremost. That's where it goes. That's what it hits. And so if you're breathing regularly, either long type of breath work, if that's something that you do, or you're just going and listening to the ocean waves and breathing deeply, you'll start to notice if you are contracting your breath. And then you would say, what is going on in my body? I need to address what's happening. Is this a time for me to reach out and do a virtual chat with my doctor? So that's kind of why I love to say, work on your breath work first. Know what's your normal, so you also know what's your abnormal.
Yeah, I really like that. And what's interesting to me, and it's kind of a sidebar, but I've dealt with a lot of allergies. And one of the things that I learned was that when we hit a point in our, something traumatic happens, or we think is traumatic, it may be something really benign. But when something happens and we stop breathing, if we're eating at that time, that can cause us to, our bodies don't know the difference between that gunshot on TV and a real live one.
Mm-hmm.
And it may, if something scares us, we could actually develop an allergy against that food. Our body's going to resist it. And so, probably one of the best advice, whatever you do, if you're going to watch the news, which I honestly watch very little of it even now, but if you're going to watch the news, don't do it while you're eating.
Oh, no, yeah, absolutely not. It actually triggers a fight or flight response immediately, like you said, and it no longer allows us to assimilate the world around us, the news we're digesting or taking in, nor the food.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So anyway, what kinds of things, I mean, breathing isn't just it. What else can we be doing to guard ourselves against this virus, this thing that's unknown?
So before we guard, we need to get the mind right. And so I would love to take you through my trademark process. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. I'd love that.
I would like all your audience to just go through this as well. Pause, record, playback, and know that if anybody in your audience wants this handout, I'd be happy to share it with them.
And I can make that available on the show notes if you'd like. I'd love to do that.
Amazing. We'll do
Perfect.
that.
Let's do it. Okay.
So first of all, we go into this, what we call the preparation stage. And in preparation, it's really creating new lingo, boundaries, and protocols as a family. So get together with your entire family, which means even those extended family members who might be visiting you from close by. What is your spending budget looking like? Mm-hmm. How much was the average that we paid for groceries, and what's the inflation that we're going to add to it? And in addition to, what is the minimum amount of stock we want to have in our home?
Yep.
And these are all decisions we make as a family. Who is going to be doing the groceries? Who is going to be cleaning and prepping the groceries back into your home? Who's doing the cooking? Who's doing the cleaning? And really knowing that, even to the smallest thing of who's going to open the mail? Where are we going to put the mail? Where are we bringing outside stuff in first?
Yeah.
Getting ready in that sense. So that's the preparation stage. And then we would go into some what ifs. And what ifs could be, what if the dog gets sick? At what time or at what threshold would we allow us to go out and reassimilate into the world with the pet? What is our family plan of when would we stop our quarantine, under what circumstances? It would be, what happens if we run out of water? Do we know where to tap into water resources? Whether there's a well, it's a couple blocks down. There's actually a website online that tells you fresh spring water around the world. So Look that up. I wish I had the URL. I would shout them out, but I don't. And then also maybe even just YouTubing a video of how to tap into your 40-gallon supply water tank. It's pretty easy. Once you let it out, you first have to absorb the extra pressure. You'll get about 5 to 10 gallons out the first shot, and then you should close it up again and have some more reserve there. It's tap water.
So is this assuming that where's the water story coming from? Because I have water. So are we
amazing? So the reason I do this is because a lot of people, when I get on the phone with them, which I've had about 58 phone calls at this point in the past week and a half, they talk about food and water. And so I'm trying to address the what if parts. Okay, so what if we do run out of water? We're trying to get in front of these obstacles that they're presuming already. So what if we do?
But excuse me, but what I'm thinking is, so these are people that are probably bringing water in. They don't have good tap water or whatever, or
they feel that the tap water is going to run out.
Yeah, hopefully that's a really a worst case scenario.
I believe that's the worst of the worst.
I'm not going to allow myself to go to that place.
Amazing. And that's amazing. And it sounds like you have very strong boundaries and a lot of internal strength. You have a lot of strength and a lot of will. And there's some people who unfortunately don't, and they need to know what's the backup to the backup to the backup.
And that's really good advice. And again, I don't mean to make light of people who do go to those worst case scenarios. It's interesting because I think we talked a little bit before we got on, and we talked about the fact that our journeys have both kind of been coming to a point where we feel like we've been being prepared for a time such as this. And what's interesting is yours is coming from kind of that medical experience, that not even medical so much as just emergency response. And in fact, maybe now is a good time to talk about the fact that people are like, why should I be listening to this woman from California? Why should she be qualified to be telling me what to do in this epidemic? And so if you don't mind, I'd just like to take a minute and talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
So the reason that I invited Jeanette to be here is the fact that, probably 10 years ago, she worked with, in the environmental world, fire or emergency response, basically. Mm-hmm. And that worked with fire, wind, water, smoke. I mean, anything, that as long as there was an emergency there, you guys went in and helped recover from that emergency. And you were certified by the EPA to work in these emergency areas. And then you kind of shifted into the healing environment that goes around with that. Is that correct?
Yes. So it was a lot of natural disasters type situations. So fire, wind, smoke, mold, all the environmental outside stuff we try to stay safe inside from. And I was certified by the EPA and OSHA, mostly in PPE, personal protective wear, how to keep these situations from entering in our body and the employees around us. Right. And then external forces, I would say environmental forces, really caused our family to, our health declined. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, we pulled away and we kind of fell into, I'm going to say fell because I tripped over it, a lot of healing modalities that are really ancient and natural and pure and biblical.
There's also a lot of misinformation out there right now.
Yeah.
Who should I believe and who shouldn't I believe? Who should I trust and who shouldn't I? And so,
so this is what I would say to address it. If you're looking at a spectrum, and I heard this from a very fantastic scientist, if you're looking at a spectrum, 1 being somebody sitting at the corner with a sign in their hand as a 1, and 10 being the World Health Organization, I would say put me at a 4 or 5. Okay. I'm going to say that. I am not a medical doctor, right, nor do I give medical advice. We are talking theory and preparation and mindset. So everything that I say comes from that angle and really easy, palatable, applied steps that you can take.
Yes. And we're going to get back to your steps, but what I started to talk about and then got sidebarred was the fact, so you're there to help from that standpoint of all the mindset and just practical steps like we're going through to deal with all of this. And I come at it from a faith-based perspective and help just kind of reframe some of the fear that we're having, and how we can just relinquish that and trust God and know that it's all going to be okay. So completely different perspectives on the same types of problems. And so, so I say all of that just to say, I don't mean to make light of people who think of things in that worst case scenario. I just happen to be one that's kind of like, if that's going to happen, I'm going to do the best I can, and I'm going to put a lot of faith in God. So we don't need to go on that conversation anymore. What I'd like to do is, we've talked about the preparation. We've talked about the what if. I don't know if you have more you want to talk about with what if, but let's get back to your steps.
So it would be community. So it's a community part. So number one thing I would say is, if you have a neighborhood watch in your area, I would highly recommend getting in contact with your community leader. Your community leader should know what your skills are, what your tools are, what's your area of genius, and she can possibly give your number out to somebody who's in need. I reached out to my neighborhood watch, and I let her know if anybody is in fear right now, give them my number. I'd be happy to talk them through just how to feel prepared and aware. There is no right now legal lockdown. It's just being 6 feet away and for non-essential travel at the moment. So that'd be one. Know where, once again, who has certain resources that we can trade and barter with. Once again, that would be one of the biggest ones. And then going into quarantine, again, what are your family plans? What are the boundaries within that? Everybody is going to be within 4 walls or a little bit bigger. How are you dividing up space and time so that there is peace and centering, and not someone asking you for something? And so it's going to be a lot of open and raw conversations in that time.
Yeah.
Along with, what happens if we get angry? What's our protocol? What's our safe word? What's the, I need you to step away right now in order for me to collect myself and collect my thoughts. And that could help with cabin fever as well, having these protocols in place. And then once we get out of cabin fever, I would say, what is your plan for reintegration? Like when we get the clear, the go ahead to go back into the world and live our lives and go to picnics again and at the park, is your family going to hang back for a couple of days, or are they going to still continue being in some type of confined quarantine?
Yeah.
And then through all of that, I would say one of the biggest conversations to have is, what is the silver lining of this quarantine? What would we like to produce and get out of it at the end? And it could be a family health plan. It can be, maybe we want to read the entire Bible from front to back. It could literally be anything big that your family's always wanted to do and can finally do it together. So creating that big light at the end of this, what can feel dark and long tunnel.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've been saying that too. It's like, find that time. You've got the time, and I don't know that it's any coincidence that all of our biggest idols in the world have all just been taken away from us. And we've just been forced to just take a deep breath and really look at what we value in life and where we're spending our time. And is it that horrible that mommies and daddies are forced to be home with their kids all day? And and I think your steps will help make that experience easier, because it's gonna, the flip side of that is, obviously there's just a lot of tension, but if they learn to deal with those things, it can be so beautiful.
Oh, so beautiful, so beautiful. So that's kind of the process. There's even the preparation phase before the process if people want it. And it is, I think I sent it to you, the VIA Values in Action quiz.
I don't remember that. No.
Okay, it's VIA assessment. It's called Values in Action, and it is a strengths type test. And I would say that if every person in your family can take that test and really come from their strength standpoint and be able to contribute in a way that feels meaningful to them, it would make the world of difference when creating these protocols and reintegration, and maybe even seeing what is the value system, what's the general consensus that this family has that would determine plans and steps to take.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you did send it to me. It's been a while. We talked about it a month or two ago, maybe. So yes, I was thinking of it in terms of just this conversation. But yeah, that's a great idea. And yeah, to take this time to get to know ourselves personally and other family. There's so many personality type things
Yeah.
people could be doing, and using this time for spiritual growth, which you've
Right.
already hinted at, but also personal growth, and
Mm-hmm.
or just read that book that you've always that's been sitting on your shelf you've been wanting to do for a long time and haven't made the time to do. Or I've been saying, get into your devotion book, or yeah, go for walks. It's getting nice
Mm-hmm.
out. As long as you keep your social distancing, that's a really healthy way to do it.
Social distancing and shoes outside, leaving those shoes outside.
Yeah, and when you were talking about the preparation, I watched an amazing video today that I hadn't thought about. But all of those things, as far as what you're bringing into your home, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to the shoes, but the bag, and how this guy had an amazing job of like drawing a line down the middle of the table and saying, okay,
Right.
all the clean stuff on this side.
Right.
So, and in fact, I don't know, have you seen, because I'm thinking I just might post that video right at the
Mm-hmm.
bottom of this so people can, because he does a great job of just showing, this, if you do this, you can just dump your bread into this container and you don't have to
Right.
touch it, and then you're good.
Right.
Or you wipe this container down, and it was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's the same one. He's a surgeon who did it.
He might be, he
And
had
he was talking
Perez
about
Hilton.
everything you bring in from the out as if there's glitter all over it. Oh no, this is a different guy. So I watched one by a surgeon. So
Okay.
he is a surgeon at emergency medicine, and he said anything that is outside and touches anything that you don't know where it's been, imagine as if it's glitter, and this is how you
Yes.
make it, consider it a sterile environment.
Yes, that's
Okay,
exactly, that's the
awesome.
story. So whether it's the same guy or not, maybe they're, but anyway, but what was really cool, one of the things that I really liked about it was so simple,
Mm-hmm.
is if you don't need, if you're stocking up your, go to the store once
Right,
every 2 weeks, and if you don't need
right.
anything right away, just leave
Don't
it
get it.
outside for 3 days, and then you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do all of this mess.
Exactly.
And it was like, wow, that's easy.
Yeah, that's why in this protocol, where are you bringing outside stuff in? Like really designate it.
Yeah,
Most of my clients and friends have put their garage, a certain part in their garage, that's where they put it, they clean it, and then they bring it into their home.
yeah, yeah. Oh, that's cool. So talking about pets,
Yes.
how obviously the pets have to go outside. So
Yes.
do we just assume that because they're in our yard and that's probably not been contaminated, that they're okay, they're good to go? Or do we have to wipe their little paws off every
I
time?
would
What does that
say,
look like?
so I'm not sure if the coronavirus is outside, right?
Right.
I don't know. But what I do know is that when we go to stores or we go to hospitals, when we go to different places, the bottom of our shoes do have it. And we're bringing it into our house. And I think it was just on the news yesterday, 17 strains of different viruses are on every American's floor. And so that's fine. They're on the floor. Totally fine. We're not eating off the floor. We're not doing anything. But the one people who are our pets. And so our pets touch the floor. They come to us. They try to lick our face. And I would say just kind of be mindful of that. Don't reject them. I mean, pets are just so healing and loving. They're necessary, but just be mindful. Wipe their paws if they're coming to your bed. Wipe their face down. Just protect them just as much as us.
Well, and the other thing is that from my previous career, I know that, I mean, pets they're comfort animals, and
Right? They are.
so
They're so healing.
yeah, so that's a huge thing. I mean, people
Mhm.
need that right now. So yeah, we wouldn't want to um, have them be the ones that would, put us in jeopardy. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Not intentionally at all.
right. So how about, I know that we've talked in previous conversations or whatever. To me, one of the really important things that we need to do is just eat well. The things that we are eating are so important to keep our immunity up and things like that. And just that preventative aspect of any disease, any cold, flu, or whatever.
Mhm.
And you speak to kind of that aspect of how we can help feel good about what we're putting into our bodies that's going to help us
Yeah.
fight anything that we might
Yeah.
pick up.
So I would totally address that, but let me just back up just a little bit.
Okay.
So I've been obsessed with type of pandemics and when things happen that ruffle world events. So 9/11 and the crash of 2008, 2007. So those are some of that I've really studied, and I've particularly studied the immune systems within it. This is what my book's going to be about. And ever since the Wuhan COVID-19 hit in China, I had been studying it, and then simultaneously I studied the Spanish flu in 1918. And I was looking at a lot of similarities and patterns. And so I was trying to see what's the difference that makes a difference from those who contracted it and those who survived it. And it was really in the mindset of seeing it as a flu, not seeing it as a death sentence or an impending death sentence. So
Yes.
now let's bring it back here. So if we're in fear that COVID equals death, then I would say no type of immune boosting support would help you. So just really see it as a severe upper respiratory infection, first and foremost. How can we practice our breath work? How can we eliminate anything that will irritate our lungs? I would say smoking, being in smoking environments, fires. I would even say if you have like types of asthma, even stay away from candles. Right now, we don't want anything to sear the lining so that we can prevent the contraction of an infection. Okay. Now, if we're in that healthy mindset, then yeah, let's do stuff to boost our immune system. I would say any type of natural occurring delimining, so any kind of oranges, lemons, limes, tangerines, all the stuff that we've always known that have carry vitamin C. Eat it up. Eat it up, use it up, breathe it in. I love to squeeze oranges, have my orange juice, and then I love to squeeze the peel. Have you ever done that? And like, so your hands kind of turn like a white oily film,
Okay.
and that's actually an antibacterial and antiviral. So I leave it on my hands for a little bit, go work in the dirt. That helps boost the dopamine production, the happy feel good chemical. So just go into the dirt, plant something, work in the garden. And then I twist the orange peel to inhale and actually give some beautiful antiviral smells into the
I love it.
or olfactory into our lungs. So that's some ways also as least amount of sugars as possible. Natural occurring sugars are fine. A lot of eating the rainbow, like red, purple, green, blues, fantastic during this time. We want to keep our energy and our vitality up first and foremost. Getting outside, getting some natural occurring vitamin D. And one thing that I've noticed from all these different world events that I mentioned earlier is that brain function and brain cognition, it spiked because of going into worry loops. And worry loops will be stopped when you have a plan in place. So you're like, I don't need to worry. I have my plan in place. And supporting that with some good omega-3s is fantastic too.
That's beautiful. I love that. And that's not just for these times. I mean, that's good advice for all the time.
For all time, yeah.
Yeah. I think nutrition gets kind of poo-pooed away by people who are like, oh, that's not for me. But in reality, and I don't mean it that way. I just,
right.
But there's, in that spectrum, there's some of us who, and I'm not a perfect eater, but I do certain things. I do supplements and things like that to make sure that my body's getting what it needs to. I don't get cold. I don't get sick. So I feel like I'm doing something right anyway.
Absolutely.
I just feel that people, and I think that that's one of the things that'll come out of this time is people will feel maybe there is a little bit more that we can do proactively to prevent, not just. I love your perspective on just think of this as just another viral
infection
somewhere. Yeah,
it's a very sensitive viral infection. I would totally say that. But if you have it and you contract it, don't make it equal a death sentence, please.
Right. Well, and if you do the research, the vast majority of the people who get it will only have mild symptoms. Now, mild symptoms may be more severe than your everyday cold, but it's not. We're not all going to end up in the hospital if we catch the virus.
Yeah, in the United States, 20% of them will end up in the hospital. But in the United States, we can just almost barely handle that. But in other countries, unfortunately, the stats are much different.
Yeah. So,
And actually, I would even invite everyone not to even think of, taking these precautions as nutrition. Consider it preventative self-care
right.
for the long
Right.
run. Yeah.
I agree, including the getting out and getting some sunshine and the walking and all of that are just things that help us. Well, we feel better. We look at the world from a much better perspective when we're getting that self-care. And especially now, it's just important to get sleep. Don't. It's easy for me to say, don't lay there and worry about it and not sleep, but it's something that we do. And to me, my answer to that is, just prayer and just turning it over. And then you always got to have a really good book on your nightstand when that doesn't work. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, Vana, you are so ready and prepared for this that it feels like effortless for you. Like I'm getting that sense. And it's like, and being coaches in some capacity, in all the capacities, we have these tools and we've been ready for this for a really long time.
Right.
There's a lot of people who have not, unfortunately, where they need your support or they need the support of another coach to help them dig into the tools that will be their saving grace. In some capacity.
And thank you for saying that. And I really appreciate it because to me, it's like, yes, I've been out there marketing my services for however long, and that's really important. But right now, the most important thing is if somebody is really struggling, if they're having a hard time dealing with this, reach out to one of us, reach out to somebody else, whoever. But this is not a time to worry about, I don't want to bother because they're so busy, or and then they'll just give me a sales pitch and I just don't want that. I don't think any of us are there right now. All we want to do is help and serve and make sure that people are doing well. And so I appreciate you bringing that up so we can have that conversation.
Absolutely.
Talk to people. Let's just all get through this together.
Get through it together, and also get through it together. And this is something I really wish I mentioned it first before we even talked about this, is knowing what your truth is. And so I would say, when a certain verse speaks to you and that's your truth. And then there's some you're like, that's nice. And you kind of go on like that same feeling when you know that it is the holy word and it is your word and that you needed it and it was delivered straight for you. When you hear that truth in the media, believe that truth for you. If you read it in research papers, believe that truth for you. And that is your kind of, I don't know, that's kind of like your nudge. Like, hey, listen to that part. This is what you need to do for your family and your body and your plan.
Beautifully stated. And a really good example of that for me is my dad, bless his heart, he does an amazing job of getting supplements and things that he needs. And we've been working together on this for a long time. And just recently he's kind of shifted over and he was like, so I've been taking, this one, and then I've been just taking this much of that. Do you think that's okay? And I just said, Dad, if you think it's okay, it is. It can't come from me. I can't tell you exactly what yours looks like, but instinctively what's right for you. And if that feels right, then yes, that's right.
Yeah, and your body your whole heart just tells you. And also when you feel guilty about something, listen to that also. It might be like a little nudge like, hey, you need to do more of that. You should do it more often. So really focusing and seeing what is your body telling you when we're in these four walls. Like really dig down and find out what your truth is.
Yes, that is really great advice. Thank you for that. So, did we get through all your steps? Was there anything specific to this conversation that you wanted to add before we kind of shift gears a little bit?
Just if they would like to receive a Corona Calm conversation, I still have 30 more out there. I'm not sure when this will air, but I still have 30 left.
It's going to air very soon. I'm going to move this one to Tuesday. So
okay, awesome. And it would be 25 minutes from fear to calm around the coronavirus.
Oh, I love it.
And it's totally free.
What a wonderful gift. Thank you for that. If you guys haven't figured it out already, that's an amazing gift. You should take her up on that if you
I will ask them if they've done these steps.
Okay.
And then we're ready. We're ready to
Okay.
go in it. Yeah.
So it sounds to me like if you haven't, do that, do it before you call. So
Yes.
we will link up your how to get to that in the show notes and all that. Why don't you just say like where the website or whatever it is quick in case they don't find the show notes.
experiencehealthbyjeanette.com.
Okay.
And I believe everyone can experience health through disease, diagnosis, or the fear of disease.
Awesome. And I assume they can find you on Facebook, any other social media?
Yeah, Jeanette Carbajal. And my Instagram is where I'm putting daily antiviral, antibacterial tips and tricks of how to use things around your house, like vinegar, oranges, lemons. Every day. It's called Chronic Disease Light Coach, because I believe there's light at the end of every tunnel.
Oh, I don't know if and I don't get on Instagram very often, but I'm going to go look for those for sure.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Wonderful. Okay. So one of the things I always ask is if you have a favorite verse or saying that you would like to share with the audience.
I think the one that I'm not quoting this one, but it's really right now, let go and let God. Mm-hmm. And I know that's very generic, but it's what I recite every minute of every day as his words come through mine, as I'm a conduit. I say, just let go of it. Don't be attached to anything. Allow them to receive it. If it's meant to be their gift, it will be their gift. Just let go and let God.
I love that because sometimes if we get too much, we can't remember it. That's something that somebody can latch on to. And if it resonates, like you were talking about before, people can own that as their own and take that through this season. And that will be golden. I actually have a little stone by the side of my bed that says, let go and let God.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. So wise words to live by. One last question. So has there been a time in your life when you felt that God was just nudging you there, that you knew that you were longing for more? And could you share a little bit of that with us?
2 weeks ago, I was in a retreat with some brilliant women from all over the world, and we had just got word that quarantine was starting. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to keep going and doing what I did. And I was paralyzed in fear. But I realized I wasn't paralyzed in fear. I was paralyzed for the fact that I needed to listen more clearly. And that the culmination of my entire path was getting me ready for this point of getting ready for world pandemics. And what it looked like was very specific words that were coming out in the news, and I was listening, and it would shake me.
Yeah. I just got goosebumps.
Me too.
I believe with all my heart that God has been preparing you for this. And when this passes, there will be another nudge for something else or not. We don't, and that's the beautiful part of it. We never get to know what the next step is. We just have to take the one that's right in front of us. And you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say I'm just allowing. I'm allowing to be blown in the direction that he blows me. Absolutely. It might feel pushed. It might feel cold for a little bit, but I'm just guiding.
And I think that that's an important message, because I think many times God calls us into something and there's that fear in the back of our mind that's telling us, oh, I can't do that. And if he calls us to it, he can equip us to get to it. So anyway.
He equips us. He gives us our guides. He gives us everything that we need. Yes.
Everything. And if we push it, we can get off track. He'll bring us back around, but it can be painful. I know that from experience. This is beautiful. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Vana.
Yes. God bless you in this journey.
Thank you.
And, it's funny because I always say it at the very end, but I feel it's appropriate to say it right now because we all have a calling, and we all have a purpose to fulfill. And I feel with all my heart that you are there. And so what I was going to say that I always say is go, be blessed, and live your more.
Thank you.
I love you, girl. Thank you so much for this. It was beautiful.
You're welcome.
And thank you for stopping by today. As you can tell, Jeanette has so much wisdom and relevant experience, both professional and personal, to this situation. It just was a natural time to bring her on to share that with you. If you got nuggets in her information that you can use, I hope that you will go download her information. Take her up on that offer for that 25-minute call if you are struggling in these difficult times. Don't be ashamed of that. This is such unprecedented time, and we need to rely on one another to help each other through it. So whether it's Jeanette or me or someone else that you know, if you are having a difficult time dealing with the fear and uncertainty, please get the help you need. We need to get through this together. If you know someone who can benefit from this message, I hope that you will share this episode with them. Yes, it's a little longer than my usual shows, but I think that it was worth the extra time to gain the perspective from so many different angles of how to deal with this. And it may not all apply to you. Maybe you're in a part of the country that it isn't quite as, we haven't been, here in South Dakota in particular, we haven't been hit as hard yet. Hopefully we won't. But regardless, take this information and make it work for where you are and what your situation is. It may not all apply, but you know people all across the country, all across the world who can benefit from this. So please share it with them so that they too can benefit from it. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I want to thank you for staying with us. Like I said, it's been a longer show. I know that your time is valuable. You've got a lot of things going on, but this is really where we are to be. I believe that God wants us to slow down, take care of ourselves, and take care of those we love. So I am going to just ask you to please be blessed, stay well, and live your more. Thank you.